Hey, I got a question for you. When was the last time that you had a game night? Like an honest-to-God game night. You got all your friends together, your loved ones, maybe your family or your significant other. You put everything aside and just enjoyed each other's company over a tabletop game. If the answer to this question is far too long ago or never, then that's something you should absolutely remedy. In today's society, we're totally consumed by our screens and our devices. We work on them, we play on them, we communicate on them, and they have aided us in so many great ways. But unfortunately, those same devices that serve our online world sort of chip away at our offline worlds. We're social creatures. We as humans, we seek that face-to-face interaction, that human engagement, the warm bodies. And tabletop gaming is an absolutely incredible way to sort of fulfill those needs and to have a really great time. Luckily, there's Gamebox Monthly. You see, Gamebox Monthly scours the world and curates super unique indie tabletop games and sends them right to your door every month. The sort of stuff that you may never discover otherwise. And there are tabletop games for literally everybody, whether you are a couple, whether you're a raucous game night group of adults who enjoy bluffing and lying to each other all in the name of fun, or if you're families who are doing like weekly game nights in order to kind of reconnect and maybe grow together. It really is an all-inclusive activity for literally everybody. So let's get together and let's put down our phones and let's figure out what millions of people already know. We are in the middle of a tabletop gaming renaissance, and discovering games is an incredible way to rediscover each other and re-engage your original social network. Go to www.gameboxmonthly.com and rediscover social. Yes, let's talk about it indeed. Welcome back to yet another episode of Elaborate. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for sticking with me. We're back. We're here. We're back. We're in the swing of it. I'm in a good mood. Good moods are good. I'm very excited about my guest today. I haven't seen him in probably 7 years or so. And when I knew him, I didn't even know him that well. So I'm looking forward to fixing that today. He is talented in very many ways. He's an actor, a writer, a sketch and improv comic, as well as a TV critic and a contributing writer to a million sites that I'm sure you are familiar with. He's also the host of the weekly television-obsessed podcast, Punch Drunk TV. Very excited to have Aaron Pruner on the couch. Hey, Aaron.
Hi.
How's it going?
All right. Am I a sketch artist? Is that...
You were at some point.
I
were
was
you not?
at some point. I'm just like, you're throwing my qualifications out. I'm like, oh shit, did I do that?
Yeah. Well, you are sort of one of those where you are a slash artist. You're a something slash something slash something. And I know because I'm the same way.
You know, it's I've turned my back on a few integral parts of the whole being an artist thing up until recently. And no, I mean, okay. In all seriousness,
sure.
10 years ago, I quit acting.
Right.
Like I was done with Hollywood. I was done with this city. I was done with the industry, and I'm from LA.
Right. You're one of the few.
I hated the cliche of being an actor. I hated being around actors. I wanted to be around real people, and I got into being like a TV, not really a TV critic at the beginning. It was just I was a online
writer.
I was a blogger, quote
right.
unquote. Mutual friend Rob G gave me my first chance with his website Icons of Fright.
Really? Oh, so you were a contributor to Icons of Fright.
That was the first real chance I got doing that, and it was just a hobby that turned into a job. But after 10 years, I got laid off recently, and I've been having this, like, I don't want to say it's a coming to God moment, but I've been realizing that this whole time I've still been an actor, and I can't turn my back on
it's
certain things that make you who you are.
Exactly. It's not a thing you can shut off, and especially when it's not just a desire, but a need. Like some people want to be.
I'm sorry, I'm sucking on a throat drop in case you guys hear clicking or me like making weird sucking noises into the mic.
He's not just slurping on the actual microphone itself. The poor guy's had a cough for a million years. So we'll give him that.
But
usually I would be making fun of people for that. But
so
I'm gonna let you have it.
It's interesting you said like all the slash because I mean, to really make it as an artist in this city, you got to kind of have multiple plates spinning at all times.
Nowadays, yeah, I hope so, because I always have some multiple plates spinning. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so thank you for the accolades.
Sure.
I wish I had done anything in sketch over the past decade, but I haven't.
No? Is that a thing? Now, you said you never stopped being an actor. Do you think that's a thing that you're also still interested in getting back into?
I don't know.
Not sure.
I don't know. I was a part of a sketch comedy group and we wrote a bunch of stuff, and it was one of those things like we were a band that always rehearsed but never performed.
Oh, God.
You know, we were constantly writing sketches,
that is
but we never actually got a chance to do anything on stage, and then the group just fell apart.
That's literally the most perfect analogy for sketch in a way. I mean, that's really it. You did do stuff on the web, though, no?
I did, yeah.
But not with that group.
Well, with the guy that I created that sketch comedy group with, we won some awards we won some awards in a showcase for writing a sketch for someone else to perform in.
Right.
And then in 2008, we were called by his friend in Chicago. He's like, I'm in this film festival and I have nothing.
Right.
Can you guys write something for me?
Sure.
And he and I were working on this idea of not a sketch comedy show, but a show that it's an apartment building full of quirky characters, and each story is in a different apartment, and the through line is the manager having to go door to door.
Gotcha.
And so we put
sort of like a 4-roomsy sort of thing.
Yeah, but in a TV show.
Right,
so we put this all together in like a 20-minute pilot and sent him the script. And he's like, "This is great. Can you guys come out here and shoot it?" So we flew out to Chicago in 2008, and my co-writer Dan Greenberg and I also starred in it, and it won the festival.
Wow.
So that didn't go anywhere, but it was like, thank you for, I mean, it was a year after I quit acting.
Nice.
So it was like,
and not to mention, like, it was something that somebody sort of urged onto you versus you, like,
and that's been randomly happening throughout the past day. Like, a friend of mine wanted me to be in her short film,
right?
And another friend of mine directed a horror film and wrote a part just for me,
right?
And it's like, well, fuck, man, like, you're
trying to get out of it,
it just pulls me right back in. And after a while, you're like, maybe I'm not a spiritual person, but maybe something's trying to tell me to, keep going.
And it's sort of like what I was saying, what I was getting at before is like, it's probably more of a need than it is a wish. Like, some people like, oh, I want to be I want to be doing this stuff. And so for some people, they just need to, like, I can't go and get like the 9-to-5 and not be working on something.
See, that's just it. I had to prove to myself I could.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I got married, and my wife was like needing stability. So I ended up going from being a freelance writer and working full-time at MTV, doing nothing media related. I was in their support department, answering customer support emails and shit, to going to being like a associate editor at a big media company where I was kind of in a leadership position, writing and expressing my opinions about bullshit, like the last episode of not even The Walking Dead, because I hate that show, not Game of Thrones, because I hate that show, but like, Westworld or whatever I was covering. And I was working like 60 hours a week doing this, where I'm like, how the hell did I get here?
Wow.
But
you did it.
Yeah. And now that I got laid off, I'm like, where do I go now?
Right.
And I'm back.
Although, honestly, you might have just smacked me over the head with some of my own reality. And that might be what it is. Is it not like I couldn't imagine myself in that? Is that maybe I'm literally incapable of doing that? Like, incapable.
No, I get what you're saying.
Every time I've gotten an opportunity to have a quote real job, I have either self-sabotaged it to the point where I was just bad at it, but not because I'm, incapable of it. Me too. Really?
I got married, and that changed changed things. Yeah.
How long ago did you get married?
3 years ago.
So you got married 7 years into your acting hiatus or something
like
that.
Yeah, but we were dating since 2010.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it changed everything. I was no longer acting like a fly by the seat of your pants kind of just pursuing my own little artistic ventures. I still wanted to be involved somehow in the entertainment industry.
Right.
But this was benefits and, full-time
honestly
salary. Like, what the fuck, man? I had never gotten salary before this job. It was crazy. But it also killed my soul. And by the time I am not kidding, I'm working 70 hours a week, where it's like, I'm writing about TV that no one's going to care about this article in a week. Like, so.
And it's also sort of that thing. And I feel like an asshole because I came up with this once and I said it. I think I might have even said it to Rob G, and I think he got offended. And if you're listening, I apologize for a thing I said to you 10 years ago, Rob G, where I asked him once, don't you want to make your own stuff? Isn't that the deal? Like, when do you want to stop being a professional fan? And I was like, oh, and I saw him be like, you're an asshole. And he's right. And I'm an asshole.
Yeah. But knowing Rob, I could see how that could press a few buttons.
Yeah. And I apologize, Rob. But with that said, like, there's
definitely truth to that. If you're a fan of the genre, like I'm a fan of television, I do a podcast about television. Right. I made a living for almost 2 years writing strictly about television at a place called Zap To It, which was owned by Tribune.
Okay.
And it's like, the critics, all the critics at one point or another started off as a fan.
Right.
Whether you get jaded from it,
being a critic, from forcing
to a certain point. But, it's true. And to be a fan of it makes your output more engaging to read.
Sure. Absolutely. Because there's passion behind what you're saying.
Right.
Versus just like, this shit again.
So, there is something to being a professional fan, but at the same time, if you're also trying to make a living creating content and directing your own documentaries or being an actor or whatever, you have to have this real strict discipline of separating yourself from the art.
Right.
Because, I was just telling you, before we started recording, I've gone back to re-register for extra work,
right?
Because I'm in the union and I'm like, I need extra money. But it's one of those things where you got to separate your ego from it. Because there was a time when I used to do it, and I would get so resentful and so angry at the people in front of the camera who were getting paid to deliver lines in a way that I could do so much better.
Yeah, and kind of good money for what you're doing for the day.
It's good money, and if you work enough, you get benefits.
Yeah, and it's like. It's that whole thing of the problem with that is almost more soul crushing than getting a job as a security officer, or whatever, or whatever.
But it's not if you separate your ego from it.
That's the problem.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I was doing it while I was really hardcore pursuing acting, and I had come from a background where I had worked a lot in front of the camera before even deciding to do extra work,
right? And
seeing how there's a classist sort of system on set, where extras usually get treated like shit.
Yeah, meat props.
But if you separate yourself from that and come to set with your own work that you have to do and your own purpose, and just know that what the rules are, what you're there for, and on your downtime, instead of getting involved in the
set drama.
Yeah, instead of getting involved in that, do your work.
Right.
And I was talking to my co-host about it. He used to do extra work all the time.
He said to me, when I first got out here, I did it constantly.
He said to me, it wasn't for me, but he's like, you're an actor. You need to be on set.
Sure.
And I said, yeah. And as long as I have my work with me, that shouldn't be a problem. Get writing done, get whatever done. So
that's true, because there is so much more downtime to sitting and waiting around and holding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 10 years ago, I was super impatient and I was super resentful. And I've gone through some I guess, emotional changes where I look at it now completely different, prioritized differently. Where
I think also with age comes the relaxing of one's ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we're not as headstrong as we were when we were 20.
But it's also just that thing where, like, know what your role is and go and do that. Know that you're going to get paid decent money for it. And you're going to also have the ability, if you're working in other avenues, like I'm still writing, you'll have you'll have a lot of time to work on other creative ideas, as long as you're focused on that and not angry that another actor got a job you didn't get, because that'll come back and kick you in the ass later.
Yeah, that's also that sort of positive thinking mindset.
Yeah, my two first loves from very early on in my life was writing and acting.
Right.
And if I could do both in some way and make me happy and also make money in the process, then...
Now, real quick, we're going to jump around here because I want to talk about how you started, because I know you started young, but also just because we mentioned him, Rob G. The reason that we know each other is through Rob G, and we were even a little bit fuzzy as sort of the details, but I feel like being the slash artist, the guy who does so many different things, lends itself to better people. I feel like people in LA that do a wide variety of things tend to be better people because they tend to be more humble.
I will tell that to my wife, who has like 7 different jobs.
Okay, so here's my thought process, and it might be far-fetched and it might be absurd, but that's who I am. Like, most people who are really good at a lot of things aren't considered the best at any one of those things. And so it's hard to get an ego when you're not like, oh, that guy's the best whatever actor, best writer. You know, like when people around you aren't fluffing you for that one specific thing, it's more about like...
No one around me is fluffing me.
Right. Ditto. And so I feel like that lends to better people. And I have the proof of being a better person and being somebody who's just cool and gets it is the way that you and I met was because some odd 7 years ago, maybe 2010, we only had like mutual friends on Facebook. And I think you like threw me a friend request because of all the mutual friends, because of Rob and some other people. And you responded to the worst thing that anybody in LA who is a nerd can post on Facebook. And that is, I'm heading to San Diego Comic-Con today. Does anybody have a room that I can stay in? Which, for anybody who goes to San Diego Comic-Con, that is step one years in advance.
I replied to that?
You replied and offered me a spot in a room that you had with some people, and I ended up not having to take it up because something else.
I'm a pretty cool guy. I don't remember this at
You're
all.
a cool fucking dude. And I just remember being like, this guy who doesn't know me, who we've never met in person, you were just like, oh yeah, I'm going down there with a group. I've got this person. And
I think that was after I met you through Rob. I think I had already met you face to face.
I don't believe so, because I believe if you go through the messages, it literally says like, look forward to meeting you in person one day soon or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Let me explain something to you because I have a soft spot for that situation because 2007 at Comic-Con, my girlfriend and I broke up and I lost my room to stay at, and I ended up being forced to sleep in my car until I had a nervous breakdown and just covered in tears, I drove home at 2 a.m.
Jeez.
So I understand what it's like to not have a place to stay.
Wow.
And 2010 was the first year I went back after after 2007.
Right, so 3 years.
Where it was like, I am going to redeem myself at this fucking place.
Nice.
And then, 7 years later, I'm going all these industry parties and I'm all this cool guy. And I'm like, take that, Sarah.
So you, so you were just paying it forward to the schleb who didn't have a place. But for whatever reason,
I've been there. I know exactly what that feels like. I slept in a bathtub 1 year.
Yeah, that's the Comic-Con way. Everybody has to pay their dues in a bathtub for at least 1 year.
I slept in a bathtub in a room at the Omni where if you're in a room with like 7 people, know that the Omni's bathroom door slides closed and doesn't have a lock on it. And there's like that area underneath the door between the door and the floor where it's kind of like, if there's a breeze, the door swings a little.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, if I'm in there and there's private things happening, I don't need the 7 girls in the room that I'm staying with because a friend of mine and her staff was lucky enough to give me a spot on the floor hearing my process. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. But that's the genesis. And then I just remember, like, I feel like we hung out for a little bit pretty abruptly. And I remember you even suggesting me to like friends of yours as an actor for projects where you're like, oh, my friend is writing this horror movie, and nothing ever came of it. But I just remember like appreciating that, like, oh, here's a guy who's like, he gets it. Like he's in the hustle. He can see in other people when people are like real and not in it for shitty reasons. And remember, you always tried to help, which was always very cool.
You were also a similar character to me.
It's true.
So, I mean, at the time I was a lot skinnier. You look at me, look how fat I am right
feel
now.
The same way.
But no, I met you and I'm like, okay, both dark hair, both have a beard, both have glasses, both kind of like go out for like the quirky, nerdy type characters. So like if I couldn't do something, yeah,
we're too attractive to be the character actor, but we're not attractive enough to be the lead guy. Yeah,
so attractive.
But let me ask you this, just because it's a random story and I can't remember, and this might even get edited out if the answer is no. Did you accompany me to a taping of Kitchen Nightmares?
Oh my God, yes I did. Yes, I did. That was you.
So.
Holy
I thought
crap.
so.
I forgot.
I couldn't remember who was in the group.
That was at that French restaurant.
Something in Van Nuys. I mean, in Sherman Oaks.
It's on Ventura. It's still there.
La Frite.
Yes. That was you. Holy crap.
It was such a weird group.
That was like 2009 or 2010 because... or maybe even 2011 because I moved out of that apartment in 2012.
Gotcha. Like the one that was over.
I don't remember who was there, but I remember.
We
were at a table and
it was
Gordon Ramsay came by and I made a comment at him.
It was me, you.
The food was shitty.
It was awful. It was not. We didn't go on the correction night. No. We went on the first shitty night.
And what's funny about that is I've been to that restaurant before with my mother.
Yeah.
Like before that,
yeah.
And
was it also crappy then?
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, so they needed it.
Yeah, they haven't really fixed anything.
It was me, you. It was Patrick Melton, host of Nobody Likes Onions, who people who are familiar with me from that podcast years and years ago. He's a comedian. this girl, Annalise, who I like barely knew, who was the one who hooked it up, and then a boy that she was there with. I remember her being so obnoxious because every time a camera would come around, she tried so desperately to like be on the television show.
I do recall.
She kept saying the same thing like over and over again, really loudly, whatever
this
it was.
Is real good or real whatever.
But,
yeah,
yeah.
So she was commenting about
this
the
is
food.
a little cold. Or
yeah, because she knew how reality shows worked, and I'm like, bitch, I'm just here for the food and to see Gordon Ramsay in person.
It was. Anyways, I just.
She
had
was
that memory.
annoying. Yeah,
She
I'm
was
remembering
very
this
annoying.
now.
She was super
Holy
annoying.
crap, that was you.
Such a random LA story though.
I have a lot of those.
Yeah, quite a few of them. But speaking of LA stories, that's what we call a fucking segue in the podcast biz. I nailed it.
Hashtag fucking segue.
Segues, LA stories. So you are like not an LA native, but a SoCal native, right?
No, I'm an LA native.
Oh, you're
LA?
LA?
I was born here.
Oh, gotcha. See, I thought you were from somewhere out, but
Nope.
You said that
I
you
give a East Coast vibe off because I'm Jewish.
right. Yeah.
And I hate people.
Yeah. Oh, well, we are very similar.
Yeah. So there's a reason why I sort of bonded with Rob G. There's a reason I bonded with Mike C., his co-owner of Icons of Fright.
Yep.
And there's a reason why everyone I meet for the first time wants to know where I'm from because
like what town in Long Island are you from?
I gesticulate a lot. And
you're very Long Islander. You are a very Long Islander.
I've never even been to New York, but I appreciate that.
So you did mention though that you wanted to write and act when you were very young, and you did. Didn't you get your start like as a teenager?
The week after I graduated. Well, actually, yeah. I was 17. Before that, I was trying to make it. You know, I was doing different theater stuff at school, and my mom was trying to help me. And there was a company called Faces International in like the late 80s, early 90s that if you go and you pay them like thousands of dollars, they'll give you headshots in classes and get you out there. And then it turned out it was a big old scam and they were brought down. And thankfully, I never went and spent that money.
Right.
I got an agent after I booked my first job. Gotcha. It was kind of crazy how that all works. It was kind of backwards.
Right.
A casting company came to my high school and they were looking for this character to be in a quote unquote undisclosed fast food commercial.
Okay.
And apparently they had auditioned all these boys at different high schools.
Was it like a campaign they were looking for? So they were doing a lot of work?
No, it was just one commercial.
Wow, that's so weird.
They came to my school and it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And before they came, the teacher handed out like permission slips. Do you want to sign up for this? And people at school already knew I was an actor, or at least trying to be. I was in plays.
Doing plays and stuff, yeah.
So I signed up for it and I showed up and it's first thing in the morning and I'm groggy. And this is when I started drinking coffee. I would take the bus to school and I would stop at the 7-Eleven down the street and get hot chocolate with just a little coffee in it.
Yeah, for me it was Dunkin' Donuts, but yeah.
And I auditioned and it turned out it was for a Little Caesars Pizza commercial.
Oh, gotcha.
And I booked it off the audition.
Wow.
And I'd never done this before, but it was a way I guess I delivered the lines that no one else had delivered. And I was just fucking grumpy and half asleep. And so I was like, it was something along the lines of, these customers came up and it was this whole 2 pizza, get any topping you want up to 5. Does it have to be the same topping on each pizza? They asked me and I would go, no. And it was the way I said no.
Right. Sure.
That they were like, oh shit, that's our guy.
That's our teenager, our angsty teen.
So yeah, it was weird. I booked that commercial. I was still in high school. From there, I got an agent because my mom was friends with Ernest Borgnine. And Ernest Borgnine.
Wait.
Who was friends with my mother because he was a customer of hers at the bank she worked at.
So was your mother an only parent, or was dad around?
Dad was not around.
Dad was not around, and mom had no connection to the industry other than being friends with Ernest Borgnine. So,
yeah, she worked in Studio City at a bank, and a lot of her customers were actors.
Oh, right. Is that what she always did when you were growing up?
Yes.
Gotcha. So she had a long-time bank employee. And
so Studio City, she got a lot. Like, I met William Shatner. I met Ed Begley Jr.
When you were young?
I met,
I just worked with Ed Begley Jr. on something. Dan
Aykroyd. Every time I see Ed Begley Jr., I mention my mom. I'm like, you remember my mother? He's always around in Studio City in Sherman Oaks. And she just asked Ernest Borgnine, and he referred me to my first agent, and I got my agent off a referral
from Ernest
from fucking Marty, like fucking Airwolf, you know, like. And then I got headshots, and six months later, I booked VR Troopers. which was
Wow.
like a week after I graduated high school.
Wow. And that was like a teen, that was like sort of a Power Rangers-y sort of world, right?
It was a Power Ranger. It's not a spinoff because it was owned by Saban, who did Power Rangers.
Gotcha.
But the reason why it was different was at the time, Saban only had Power Rangers on Fox, and Saban wanted to expand on that formula as much as he could.
So
and he was known for treating child actors poorly.
Oh,
and,
really?
You know, not paying them what they were owed and just being in it to make as much money off of this simple formula as possible. So VR Troopers was a show that he couldn't sell to Fox because Fox was like, no one wants another Power Rangers.
Right, we already got it.
So he syndicated it, bought airtime on Fox. It became a huge hit.
Oh, geez.
And then another show called Big Bad Beetleborgs.
That
and
I remember.
Masked Rider came from that, which ended up Fox bought those because VR Troopers was successful.
Right.
And then
He
soon
created his own market.
Soon all those shows sort of like collapsed, right? I was only on that show for 2 years. We shot 90 episodes in a 2-year period.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It was a run it and gun it kind of thing. It was a non-union show. It was not SAG or anything like that.
Wow.
But I got that right out of high school.
And so you're 18, 19 doing this.
Yeah, and then I lost the job and I ended up working at a bookstore. It was like,
what's your mindset like getting this job? Can you even recall like at 18 are you like, this is it, I'm made?
Oh,
like,
I was fucking vindicated. You know, my whole life wanting to be an actor.
Your whole 18 years prior.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was trying to convince my grandmother and my mom that I could do this. My mom was always behind me. And then suddenly I'm making a living, you know, doing this. Mind you, at the time, I didn't know that the pay I was getting was fucking shit. I was making $100 a week, pretty much, on a TV show with no residuals. And I was working like 12 to 16-hour days. And I was doing my own stunts.
As an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I mean, they really exploited their child talent before SAG sued Saban, and then this big lawsuit happened in the late 90s.
Oh, shit. Really?
It changed all of that.
With that.
That didn't involve me. I didn't get any reparations from that or anything, but
didn't benefit you in any way.
I didn't save any money from it. I didn't make a lot of money from it, but I learned a lot of lessons from my experience on that.
Okay.
And as soon as it was canceled, I booked I booked an episode on Saved by the Bell, the new class.
Oh, geez.
And a TV show called In the House with Debbie Allen and LL Cool J. And that got me into SAG.
Gotcha.
And then I ended up having to actually get a real job.
Right.
And I didn't go to college because I got this right out of high school.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like at that point, if you were going to go to college to be an actor, your mindset's probably, I'm already an actor.
Exactly.
I'm working.
Right.
I don't need an education.
So
there's nothing. What can they teach me that I haven't learned on VR Troopers?
You get experience, you know, on stage, I guess. You know, there's always stuff that you can learn. And at that young age, I thought, well, I don't have anything else to learn. I made it.
Right.
Boy, was I an idiot in thinking that. But I mean, I was 18.
Sure. And you're still like, I mean, at 18-year-old, you're still a kid. You're still like, mom is taking care of everything, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I was still living there. I was trying to move out, but the money I made on that show didn't really work out.
$100 a week, seriously.
I did renegotiate. Well, it was one of those things where I got paid $100 for 1 day of work.
Okay.
And so they would on purpose make it so that I only worked one day that week.
Right.
And so when I came in to renegotiate for season 2, I renegotiated for at least 2 days of work a week.
Oh, gotcha. Minimum.
And $250 a day.
Gotcha. Oh, there you go. So then you made, I mean, still not for an actor's salary, not great, but at least
I had no idea.
As an 18-year-old, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I had no idea at the time until I joined SAG, and then suddenly it was like, wait, how much can you make?
Right. Was there ever any, I mean, obviously your mom helped you with Ernest Borgnine, but was there ever any trepidation with your mom about like having her son become you know, a TV star, so to speak, or an actor? Like,
no,
she was all like, she was in it to win it.
She was always my biggest fan.
Really?
Yeah.
And
my grandmother, I was raised by my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother was not a believer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was your stereotypical old Jewish,
it wasn't
old
practical.
School. I either need to be a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, even a writer.
Do something that's lucrative. Pretend. Yeah.
Right. Even when I started working and I started making money off of it, she did not agree.
That. It's interesting then that your mom was supportive because you feel like that might have, maybe, was it because, do you think was there any part of your mom that was creative?
My mom was never creative, really. She was more so just supportive.
Gotcha. I was trying to write the story in my head of your mom being the creative type who her mom didn't let her do anything, so she's going to let her son. But if that's not the case,
it's kind of I think there's a dark history here, and I'm not going to go fully into it, although you're probably going to want to know more details.
Of course, I already do.
On my grandmother's birthday in the 70s, the palm tree fell on the car when my grandfather was driving her to a surprise birthday party.
Oh no!
And killed my grandfather and put my grandmother in the hospital for 6 months.
Jeez!
It fractured my family.
Oh man!
The first guy that my mom met after that was my father, after her brother left town and my grandfather died.
Right.
So she met my dad, who was friends with Hell's Angels and a hardcore alcoholic.
Great.
And after a year of me being alive, they split.
Right.
So the whole thing growing up, it was like, the only good thing that came from that was me.
Was you. Yeah.
And I would always be told that when I was young.
Right.
And that was sort of a point of contention between my mother and my grandmother growing up. So when we moved and I got to live separate from my grandmother with just my mom, it was like anything
the
creative.
Dynamic changed, right?
Yeah, anything creative I wanted to do, she wanted to really support that.
That's great. Yeah,
because I don't think she got that from my grandmother.
I can empathize. I come from a fairly similar situation with no father and a mother who's raising with the aid of other women. Almost like the only reason I exist is because of a bad time period. I'm the, so
it's fucked up.
In any case, that's really great that your mom was supportive in this. Was there ever a part of her that saw it ending? Like that her was like, oh, this isn't going to be a permanent thing?
No, when I told her I was giving up, that I was stopping to pursue something a bit more lucrative and stable, she, once again, she supported it. It was never...
So that was pretty abrupt then when you decided to stop, or was that...
Well,
after?
In 2007 was the big breakup I had with my girlfriend at the time at Comic-Con. And roughly around that same time, my agent passed away from cancer. And my agent was the one that I had booked over like 20 commercials in the time I was working. And it was mostly through this agent by the name of Barry Rick. And he passed away from cancer, and he was kind of like a father figure to me. And after he died, I broke up with my girlfriend. I went into therapy because I'm like, I need to change my life.
Right.
SAG went on strike. The economy tanked.
Right.
And it was right before Obama became president.
Right.
All this stuff was happening where I'm like, fuck, I need to do something because work stopped coming my way. I didn't look like I used to look.
Right.
And I had reevaluated a lot of stuff that I had done in my life. And it just turned out that I put two and two together, that a lot of the work that I had booked over the years, I got because I was in an emotionally erratic state of mind where I was almost looking to acting as a therapy, as like a form of therapy to help me with whatever was going on. Yeah, exactly. And when I actually got myself into therapy and started eating better and exercising and trying to actually be a normal person, I stopped booking jobs and I started realizing, oh my God, like,
wow, how fucked up is that?
How chaotic in my head do I have to be
to succeed?
Right. And so that was sort of the beginning of me deciding to...
Do you mind if we sort of expand on that? What do you mean? What do you think it was about your behavior that was getting you the work?
I was diagnosed as manic depressive and OCD. So there's and clinically I was depressed for a long time.
Okay.
There's something about being able to be as wacky as possible or get laughs from people that sort of feeds that need to be accepted. I mean,
absolutely.
You look at Jim Carrey, you look at Robin Williams, for fuck's sake. I mean, Robin Williams killed himself, and I completely understood why when that news hit.
Right.
I mean, and I hated the fact that you would see stuff on news outlets, either on TV or on the internet. How could someone so funny do something so sad? And I'm like, are you kidding me? There's just a fine line separating laughter from depression, you know? And for me, I was so depressed that my outlet was to be over the top and to get jokes because I understood comedic timing.
Right. So comedy is essentially what gave birth of your condition or your mental state, and it was the humor that got you booked on roles. It was just the fact that you were at your best performance when you were at your worst personally.
Yeah,
that's tough, and I've struggled with that. You know, I always feel hard pressed still saying that I'm a comic because I don't really perform very much. At one point, I was full time working every single night, and it was. For me, it was that sort of like getting in a good headspace.
Have you seen that show I'm Dying Up Here on Showtime?
Yeah, I auditioned for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been a little I don't know.
I've seen a few episodes. It's
Right.
not easy.
No, I'm sure of it. I'm absolutely sure of it.
It's interesting to watch, and knowing that it's based on
Right.
real stuff. But I mean, it's not an easy job.
No, not at all. And the sad part is that when you work on yourself, that's when it becomes harder to do.
Yeah, because your misery or your dysfunction feeds your material.
Yeah.
And for me, it fed whatever characters I was portraying. Like I played the nerd on VR Troopers that got beat up all the time.
Sure.
And I was channeling a lot of my emotions into that, which apparently I played a character so realistically that in real life, when kids recognized me, they didn't come up and ask for autographs. They came up to kick me.
Or pig on
And
you.
they came up to
Shit,
to beat me up.
Whoa.
Because
that cannot be good for the psyche. I mean,
no, and it was before Columbine, but it was before that. When we came back for season 2, the directors and everyone came up to us saying we need to portray this character differently. It was before Big Bang Theory. It was before nerds were cool on TV. But they were they realized that there was this trend where they were promoting the idea of beating up nerds.
Right.
And so it was kind of a transformation in how my character was perceived and portrayed on the show.
So that sort of happened during your run is like the sort of the anti-bullying.
Yeah,
the beginning of
started there. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Columbine wasn't until like 98, 99. No, 2000. Something like, yeah. But it's interesting seeing how the nerd concept has shifted on TV.
Oh, absolutely.
And in movies, because I'm like,
the nerds have inherited the earth.
Y'all motherfuckers don't even know what it was like in the 90s.
Just look at the aforementioned Comic-Con. I mean, like that. Look at what that has become. Like nerd culture is now pop culture, and being a nerd is now just existing in the world. Really, everybody's a nerd at something. But I mean, to have people like strangers coming up on the streets and just
I went to a football game
picking on you.
I went to a friend's high school football game. And a bunch of kids there recognized me, and I had to leave. I had a kid jump on my back. I had a girl stick her hand down my pants looking for money. And 3 different kids kicking me in the shins, wanting me to be funny, wanting me to be on. Right. And it was one of those things where I realized, holy crap, man, like this character I'm playing is just telling kids it's okay to pick on nerds and to beat up nerds, but also it's also telling kids that I'm not a real person.
Right.
I'm the character I'm playing on TV.
Did you ever talk about this stuff with your supportive mom?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, she had nothing to really,
it wasn't,
no insight.
It wasn't
to give.
at the time. Yeah. It was more about like,
no, I used it as like, it was almost like my stand-up routine.
Right. Yeah.
I came home and I'm a Jewish guy going, yeah. So guess what? I went out and I just got kicked by all these kids, and she just laughed.
Okay. Well, yeah, because you probably delivered it in a way that made it hilarious. And,
because I really found no solution to the problem.
Right.
So
did you ever lean into that as far as like, did you ever feel like you became that person in real life? Did you go the opposite? Like, well, shit, I need to fucking work out and get jacked, or I need to
2007,
whatever.
I joined a gym. I shaved my head and I gained 20 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
And we had a VR Troopers reunion.
Oh, really?
I showed up. No one there knew who I was.
When did that show end? What year was that over?
It was 95.
95. It was over. And then when was the reunion?
Jesus. 2010.
Gotcha. So not that long ago, but yeah. So 15 years.
No one knew who I was.
Right.
So it was like,
any idea.
Or maybe, yeah, it was around 2010. I was still going to the gym, and like I was on a mission to no longer be that skinny, nerdy kid.
Right.
But in the process, I didn't like who I became doing that, because I felt like I was trying to run away from who I was.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Wow. That's fucking multi-layered right there.
Yeah.
So you're literally trying to escape the character that you played, but unfortunately maybe the character had a little bit of you in it, and then therefore trying to remove yourself from the character.
Because when I was going to the gym, I was also working on a lot of therapy to try to figure out why I kept getting in these relationships with these girls that would put me in this miserable state of mind. Mind you, the girl that I broke up with that really catapulted me to get into therapy, I found out I was the guy she was cheating on her boyfriend with for 7 years.
Oh.
But she kept that a secret, making me think I was the boyfriend.
Right.
And he was just a friend. So like a lot of shit going on there.
Yeah.
But you go into therapy. That was the main reason why I went in. And it took me multiple years. Like I didn't meet my wife to be until 2010. And the reunion was around that time.
Right.
And you're still working through these behavioral patterns and these thought processes and trying to make yourself a better person and understanding what makes you tick. And you're trying to run from your past and who you were.
Right. And then it's like, hey, let's revisit all that.
So that's kind of where I'm at now, where it's like, shit, after 10 years of not really acting, I've realized that this is who I've always been.
Sure.
But I'm only now at a point where I'm comfortable enough to say I'm an actor around people and not be afraid of their judgment.
Right.
Because in this city, there's a cliche. There's a
it's
stereotype.
Yeah. We always try to
you meet actors who just want to talk about themselves for an hour on a podcast.
Oh, they're the worst.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this is obviously a different format for that, but it's more about the type who, like, I act, I'm not an actor. I know that it sounds kind of douchey, but like,
no,
I feel like that's never going to define me. And there are so many people who that's all that they have.
When I was a kid, my number one goal was to become famous, to be a famous actor.
Interesting.
When I got on that TV show and started making, doing commercials, it went to my head. But then it was a reality check that, oh shit, as an actor, you still have to have day jobs and know that it's not going to be stable. And then I started getting very resentful and hateful towards other actors,
and then what comes with the fame probably didn't help either. I mean, like
I never really became famous.
But I meant like people, even just being, not the fame necessarily, but even just being recognized in a negative light versus what I'm sure in your brain you assumed would be, oh, people are going to come up to me on the streets and going to say that they like me and they're going to want to take a picture and take a hug.
In 2010, I was asked to be a celebrity guest at the Power Rangers convention.
Right.
And that was the first time where I'm like, fuck, I'm like, do I want to go back and revisit this? And that was a big exercise for me to go and realize that my traumatic experience on that show and my negative perspective of who I was then did not translate that way for the many fans who still love the show. Sure. And I got so many people coming up to me wanting my autograph and stuff. I'm like, you guys realize I'm going to work in a cubicle on Monday. Like, this isn't. So that was the beginning of me starting to come to grips and to terms with the fact that you can be an actor in LA and still be a good person and not fall under stupid, self-centered cliches, and be in it for the work, and for the love of doing it, and
also still other people can get something out of that.
Yes, and if you make money in the process of it, great. But the very least of it is, I enjoy doing this. The same reason I enjoy being a writer is because for me, you're starting a conversation.
Right.
You're starting a type of conversation with either your audience that reads or the viewer that watches, and hopefully you'll incite a reaction that is positive, or maybe if it's negative, it'll still be a part of the conversation.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. I mean, that is, it's incredibly poignant. It's also interesting just to sort of view you as the book with your 3 chapters of the desire, for, you know what I mean? The desire to have it, the having it, actually it's 4 chapters, the leaving it, and then now you're back. It's interesting the fact that you feel like the through line is still the exact same, but the way that you process everything is now so much more different.
Yeah, and I also feel like getting into the writing aspect of it, it also helped me to see the art or entertainment industry, whatever, with a bigger frame of mind. Because, as an actor, if you're just an actor, most actors out there just are reading their scripts and getting in front of the camera. They're not trying to understand how it works behind the camera. They're not trying to understand all the moving parts that make a scene or a TV show or commercial or movie work. When I got into journalism, I was starting to do red carpets, and I was starting to conduct interviews and produce content. And it's like more and more it's become interesting to see everything from a different perspective. So now that I am allowing myself to accept that I'm still an actor, I have a different perspective on everything than I did when I left it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, it must feel like a lifetime that all started.
I mean, Barack Obama wasn't president yet.
Right. There you go.
It was a year after Twitter launched, if that makes you understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's 2017. You're in a better headspace.
I'm broke as fuck, though.
You're broke as fuck. You might be being a background actor again sometime soon.
Yeah,
you're now engulfed in this writing world as a reviewer, as a critic. You write for every freaking website that I think exists.
I mean, that's not true, but
it feels that way, doesn't it?
I've freelanced for a lot of websites.
Yeah, for a lot of sites. Like your stuff is out there, people reading stuff. You're doing a podcast of your own, a fantastic like TV obsessed a podcast called Punch Drunk TV, right?
It used to be Past the Effin' Remote. Now it's Punch Drunk TV.
Past the effing remote. Why did the name change?
Because we left Geek Nation.
Oh, gotcha. So new umbrella.
Yep.
New name. I get it. I like it.
And basically the idea of our show is we drink and then we fight about television. So yeah, I came up with the title Punch Drunk TV because I feel like it just encapsulates all of what we do.
No, actually, it's a beautiful title, and it definitely describes what the podcast. You know exactly what you're going to get when you get that name. But what do you? I mean, if you had a desire, if you had a perfect scenario, like what would be next? Do you think? I mean, are you looking to get back into being a full-time actor again? Would you like to get? Find yourself back on television.
I think we talked about this. I don't remember if we talked about this while we were recording. I have a lot of plates spinning right now.
Right.
I got laid off in April, and from there I was burnt out at I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to write about television. I wanted to prove I could do it.
Right.
When I met Rob G, I had submitted an entry into a writing competition to join the staff of Icons of Fright.
Right.
I was apparently the only person that joined. I wrote like a poem homage to Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Oh, that's great.
I was like, I'm going to fucking do something weird. And that opened up a lot of doors for me.
Sure.
And it wasn't until Geek Nation started paying me to do that I thought, wait, I could make a living
money
doing this.
Right.
When I got laid off, I started freelancing a lot. I'd written for Sci-Fi and THR and IGN and all these big named outlets, but it's not regular work.
Right.
I'm still collecting unemployment.
Right.
So my thought was, after going out and interviewing and not getting the next job, I'm not a spiritual person, but what is the universe trying to tell me here?
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I'm still in SAG. Why don't I just go get an agent? And she's like, oh, that's so easy for you, isn't it? And mind you, the last time I got laid off, I had the same thing. I was on severance.
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to go get an agent. I got an agent, and within a year, I booked a commercial, but it didn't pay. And that's what ended up putting me in the spot where I got the job at Zap To It. Here, a friend of mine's mom is a manager. She's now my manager.
Great.
But it's not a guarantee. And so I don't know if the acting thing's going to go.
I think that also comes with age too, is you're more realistic now.
Yeah. So I don't know if the acting thing's going to go anywhere, but I'm trying to put all of my quote unquote tools from my toolbox out there to be in use. So I'm still freelancing.
Okay.
I got the acting thing going, I guess.
Right.
I might be doing background work soon.
Sure.
And I got myself into a copywriting class for an advertising copywriting class.
Oh, nice.
At the very least, I can maybe try to use my writing experience to actually turn it into a career that is lucrative.
Right.
That would still be around the entertainment industry.
Gotcha.
That I could use my writing skills for. But I got myself into that class before I decided to pay up my SAG dues and do this. So I really don't know. I have an idea for a sitcom pilot, but I haven't written it yet.
Right.
And so I have ideas, and right now I'm just trying to figure out
that's good.
what
it's
the
healthy.
direction is.
I think it's healthy to have, a variety of things that you'd like to do.
I have an idea for a book, but then it just comes down to,
writing a book.
devoting time.
Right.
I am not good at disciplining myself to devote time to sitting down to write.
What does your wife do?
My wife, so you were talking about being a slash artist. My wife is a dance teacher for toddlers. She is building up a business to become a life coach. She is an audiobook narrator. We have a sound booth in our apartment, and she's trying to pursue a career in voiceover for commercials and animation.
Fantastic.
And she's a personal assistant.
Nice. Wow.
And she helps. She helps she works for her friend's company that is a wedding planning company.
Gotcha. Is she more of a type A than you are?
No,
really. No, not at all. Because I feel like for everything that you've told me about yourself, and that I can honestly see a lot of myself in, and things that I can empathize with and sympathize with, I feel like
she and I have had this conversation. I think I know where you're going with this. I'm the type of person where I get an idea in my head.
Yeah.
I need to pursue that idea until I get
the yes or the no, or the whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. The outcome.
And that's something you need if you're an artist, an actor, a writer, a filmmaker in this industry.
Yeah, I know that all too well.
You need to know the art of the follow-up email. You need to know the art of the submission,
Right.
you know, and just being tenacious about it, trying to find an in wherever you are, you know, whether it's networking or what. She's not that great at that. I've been trying to coach her on it.
Right.
She likes taking her time with things where I'm like, oh, that frustrates me so much because I would just be doing it every day until I got.
Right.
But she has so many different jobs that she's always exhausted when she gets home.
Right. But I mean, it seems like it must work. You guys complement each other enough and to an extent. 7 years now, right?
Yeah. I'm the neurotic guy. She's the spiritual hippie. Yeah.
Oh, really? She's spiritual in that sense?
Well, she's not into modern like medicine. I trying to get rid of this cough.
Oh, that's right.
She's
You
really
mentioned
into essential oils, so
she's rubbing plants on you and shit.
she's rubbing oils on my feet and stuff like that, and doesn't take Tylenol when she gets a headache. And here I am, you know, just a Jewish guy who was raised by a Jewish mother, where I know you get a headache, you take Tylenol. You have a stomach ache, you take Pepto-Bismol. You know, you have a cough, you take Robitussin.
There's a color for every sickness.
Yes.
Yeah. Every sickness has its own color. Well, this has been a roller coaster.
I apologize.
No, it's been fantastic. I'm
you
really
had
glad
no idea what you were getting yourself into.
I'm quite pleased, actually. I feel like you and I have so much more in common than I think you realize even at this point. I'd love to have you back on, and we could do more of this, and we could talk about day-to-day shit if you'd like to come back.
Talk about what?
Like day-to-day shit.
Or I thought you said talk about day shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
who's day?
You know, that day-day shit. Actually,
I want to meet day.
it sounds like some bad street slang I just came on.
Yeah.
I'm up with. Elaborate. We talk about that day-day shit.
I mean, it's the name of a guy who works the corner. You know, he could be dealing drugs. We don't know.
Potentially. You want to know who you don't want to run into, though? That fucking night guy. You don't want to run up with fucking night. Day-day, at least he's, you know.
Yeah.
How do people find you on the internet?
I'm Aaron Flux on Twitter. I'm Aaron Flux on Facebook. I'm Aaron Flux on Instagram.
And the podcast.
Basically, it's a play on the name Aeon Flux.
Aeon Flux.
Because I was really into Liquid Television when I created this username. And then a lot of people now just think I like the word flux at the end of my name.
What does that mean?
You know, it's almost like Aaron Fucks, but I don't.
I was a big fan of Head. The Head.
Yeah, dude.
That was my favorite.
We're old.
We are.
My podcast is Punch Drunk TV. It's currently changing locations.
Okay.
You can find it on Twitter at punchdrunk_TV, on Facebook at Punch Drunk TV, and
iTunes and all those places?
Yeah. I would say punchdrunktv.com, but the website is currently in transition.
Gotcha. As always, for those of you listening, if you are on iTunes, even if you're not on iTunes, just go onto your iTunes. Do me a favor, review the show. We're currently a 5-star rated podcast. Extremely appreciative to everybody who's taken the time to leave a rating thus far. Would love to see more of those come in. We have a lot of really great stuff down the pipeline, a lot of really great guests lined up for the next couple of weeks, as well as please follow at Elaborate Pod on all social media. And as always, at It's Dragon Wagon for all things Dragon Wagon Radio. We've got a lot of really great things coming up. I'm excited for what's coming the next couple months via Dragon Wagon Radio. Thank you so much for coming, Aaron. This is
sorry for coughing.
An absolute delight. No, that's quite all right. Actually, it wasn't as bad as you said it was going to be.
I've been controlling it.
Oh, are you like turning purple deep down inside?
I mean, I'm not going to tell you that.
All right. Well, that's fair.
It's a little invasive.
All right. Well, all right. Everybody be nice to each other. We'll see you in a week. Thanks, Aaron. Love you, buddy.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. I'm sitting down real quick with my good friend Zen Zenith. Hey, Zen.
Where am I?
Where are you? You are on an episode of Elaborate in a fantastic little segment we call a commercial.
Oh, this is really nice. I like what you've done with the place.
Appreciate it. You know, I try.
So I think I'm here to talk about my podcast.
You're here to talk about a fantastic show called The House Show.
Right. Yeah. So The House Show is the podcast I host. It's a live concert and event series. So the whole thing is recorded live. We have a little audience there. And what happens is I have guest singer-songwriters join me, and they play some songs in sort of an intimate setting. And I sit down and talk to them. And then we do a Q&A with the audience. And it's a lot of fun.
So it's like storytellers meets Unplugged meets a fantastic live podcast.
Right. It's like the Moth Story Hour meets Late Night with Seth, whatever his last name is.
Sure,
meets The Nerdist.
I love
meets
it.
your favorite hang in your favorite living room.
And I am a massive music nerd. This totally speaks to me. There's nothing I love more than live music, and there's nothing I love more than live music in a really intimate setting. It really is a fantastic show, I must
Then
say.
you are going to love this. You can check it out online at thehouseshowshow.com, or we're also available on iTunes and Stitcher.
Fantastic, bud. I hope everybody checks it out.
Me too. That would be rad.
It's Dragon Wagon.